Welcome into the Double Switch podcast. It is episode 3, and we are bringing some of the hottest news to you this week. I am really excited to get into the show. We're going to talk about some of the obviously new pickups we knew were going to happen because this year we only needed 7 days of service time in the minors. Obviously, the season being canceled is a possibility, but we've got our studs, our duds, and our starts of the week. But before we get into the meat of our show, let me bring in my co-host, Michael. I am your co-host, Johnathan Butler. So how you doing today, Michael?
Good, man. Good. It was a good a little bit of a week and a half of baseball, and I'm glad it's back.
Oh, God, me too. The fact that we've had games every single night, even though there's been cancellations, I'm glad we have it back in our life, and they're games that matter, too. That's the biggest thing is these aren't inter-squad games. These are games that matter for our standings for fantasy baseball and for the actual real playoffs if we get them.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And I mean, it was a good week for us because kind of recapping from last week, we said to go get Yastrzemski, and he tore the cover off the ball. So that was glad to hear. But I mean, so how was your home leagues, and how did you do this week in general?
My main home league, the one I care about the most, actually we're doing triple headers every week. So we face 3 teams per week. We're doing 6 regular seasons, and we normally have 21 weeks of regular season. So far I've got, right now, if this week ends, it'd be 22 wins, and because each category is a win, 22 wins and about 10 losses. So it's not bad at all.
Good,
so I'm excited about it. I've had some down performances. Obviously, Bellinger's the guy that I was hoping would do better, but overall my team's performing and I'm happy. What about you?
Yeah, so I'm in my big league is a head-to-head categories, and I, as of right now, with the Red Sox Yankees game going on, I'm still up 8-7. So I win this week, and then in my home leagues with some of my buddies, I did complete clean sweep 3-0.
Nice.
So really good start on that one, and I won in the big money league. So no problems over here, and can't wait to start next week tomorrow.
Hey, that's always a good thing. Especially with us hopefully having a season, but yeah. So I cannot do math quickly. I don't know why, but I would be 22. Yeah, 22, 12, and 1 because we do have a tie in there somehow. But obviously that happens.
That's a solid start, though.
Exactly. I'm fine with it. And our previous champion is struggling. He's had a lot of down weeks, so I'm perfectly fine starting off the season like that. So why don't we get into some of the call-ups? Because like I mentioned, with the shortened season, that means a shorter time that players had to be down in the minors. And most of that was about 7 days for guys that hadn't made their debut yet. But we had guys like Zack Plesac and Jordan Montgomery get back to the majors. Obviously, as pitchers, the Yankees needed it with Jordan Montgomery. They've had some struggles and some injuries. And then Zack Plesac, part of the Indians' 6-man rotation. Kind of weird if they're going to stick with it, but 2 guys that obviously have had good fantasy years. Which one are you more excited about in that one?
Oh, man, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that Jordan Montgomery is like my favorite pitcher in the MLB for some reason. I don't know why, but so yeah, definitely Jordan Montgomery really impressed me. I know he went against the Red Sox, but I mean, still, it's a rivalry game, and he pitched really well. We'll talk a little bit later about Zack Plesac on what I think about him. So that's definitely continue listening on that, and we'll go over that. What about some other guys that were called up that you want to talk about?
We had some, I guess you'd consider smaller names, but guys that haven't had as much of an impact. We've had Franklin Kiliman, Chris Bubick, and Dalton Varshall as another 3 that were called up. Kiliman spent a lot of time in the minors. This is his major league debut, and he's looked really good so far in that bullpen for the Mets, which he's been the only one that's been a bright spot so far, really. So the Mets need it if they actually want to compete this year. And I mean, he's 25 years old. He's got some good pitches, and I'd like to see him get some more time. Hopefully he gets high leverage work soon enough, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And then Chris Bubick, I've seen a few guys on Twitter that I know that have talked about him. Obviously hasn't pitched above A or high A ball. So kind of a tough, he's getting thrown to the wolves here, especially facing guys like the Twins and the White Sox with good offenses this year. So tough for him. And like you and I were discussing early in the show, Dalton Varshall, love seeing him called up, but the Diamondbacks aren't playing him. I don't know why.
I completely agree on that one. I don't know why. He should definitely be starting over Cole Calhoun for sure. I mean, if you just look at the week Cole Calhoun had, you would definitely be putting Dalton in there as well.
Well, and Varshall can play anywhere around the field. Honestly, he's a catcher.
He's like one of the top catching prospects in MLB.
Yeah, and he's got the athleticism to play pretty much anywhere on the diamond. You could put him in right field for Calhoun. You could put him behind the plate for Carson Kelly, even in left. I mean, the guy has a bat that can play anywhere. His defense struggles at times a little, but he's athletic enough to – I mean, hell, if Eloy Jimenez can play in left field, Dalton Varshall can play there.
Yeah, and then I think yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, he made a really good attempt on a diving catch, and it just barely went off his glove. So, like, you could tell he's out there and he wants to get playing time. Like, he's not just there to get called up for the whatever, if it's a 60-game season and then go back down and maybe start again next year. I really think that if the Diamondbacks especially maybe struggle a little bit even more, they should just start putting him in the full-time lineup.
Yeah, and he's only had 2 plate appearances, 1 walk and 1 strikeout. Doesn't say a whole lot, but he's a guy that he has speed, he has power, and he's patient at the plate. So why they're waiting when they just have him sitting on the bench, I don't know. Maybe it's just, hey, we want to start you against an easier team versus the Dodgers. Yeah. But they need to get his bat in there soon because I want to see him hit.
Yeah, and then they have Houston Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think even Thursday. So maybe he'll get some playing time against them, but who knows? I mean, I don't know. I don't know why you would call him up to sit him.
I mean, especially the Astros don't have that great of a rotation, but they do seem to have an elite pitcher, though, coming up from the minor leagues, and he looked absolutely disgusting. He's a part of the last 3 we'll mention here, and that's Cristian Javier, starting pitcher, along with Nate Pearson and Nick Madrigal. I know we'll start off with this, but Nick Madrigal, he's a very polarizing player. Some people love the fact that he's a guy that could hit 330 every year, but his on base maybe 360, but he doesn't strike out. I wanted to get your kind of feel about, because I know how I feel about Madrigal, but what do you think Madrigal can be? Is he worth it?
I think he is worth it. I think he's the perfect person to be in that White Sox lineup. That's just going to be on base all the time. He's never going to strike out. I mean, other than you're not going to get any power from him at all.
No.
But you're not really looking for that. If you're in that White Sox lineup, you have power everywhere else. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I think for fantasy baseball, for the purpose of if average and just if you have like OBP, then great. But he's a better everyday actual baseball player on the field than he would be for fantasy. But if you need average and you need someone that's gonna be on base and maybe get a couple stolen bases, I think that's perfect for you. But if it was for me, I would think that he's more, especially for as a White Sox fan, he's better as a regular day fantasy or baseball player, than he is a fantasy baseball player.
And that's pretty much where I'm landing. I know people see his minor league stats, but in the majors, it's obviously harder to steal. He's got some speed, but it's more – he's not a Billy Hamilton type where he's going to be all-out sprinting. He's a great little things type guy. And like you said, there's no power in his game. It's not that he can't have it, or it's not that he will have it and that he's growing into it. It's more that he won't ever have it. That's not his style of play. I mean, you look through his minor league numbers, he's never struck out more than 5% of the time. He's a contact, just get the bat on the ball, make the opposing team work for their outs. But other than that, I just don't see the fantasy upside that there is. Yeah,
what do you think of this as a comp? I mean, he might be a little better than him already, but just comp-wise, Jose Iglesias.
I feel like he's better offensively than Iglesias because Iglesias has started really well this year, to say the least. Yeah. However, Madrigal has a bit more contact, Obviously, he still can walk. In 134 plate appearances in AAA last year, he walked almost 10% of the time. Only struck out 3.7% of the time.
Oh yeah, he doesn't strike out at all.
No,
but I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think of someone that you could somewhat comp him to.
It's tough because we really haven't had a guy like this. Most of the slap hitters are the Billy Hamilton, D. Gordon types, where you might get a home run a season, but they're just poking it out there, but they would still strike out. They didn't have the on base like he does.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find a comp for him. You'd have to go way back, honestly. Tony Gwynn is probably his best, but Gwynn had more power even.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is someone that just has, like, literally no power. I mean, yeah, D. Gordon is pretty good, but I still think D. Gordon on the base paths is
faster.
He's way faster.
Madrigal is perfect for like we talked about in one of our previous episodes of, he's going to do the little things on a fly ball to right center field. He's going to tag up from first to second and still be able to get in there. He's got the speed, but to me, he's not a high count stolen base guy, because he had over 30 in the minors last year, but he still got caught over 10 times. So especially a team with this much firepower in Eloy and Luis Robert and Jose Abreu, you've got guys. Madrigal's gonna bat 8th or 9th. He's not at the top of the order. Why risk him running when you have the Yoan Moncadas coming up that can just drive him over with a simple base hit? So I don't see the fantasy upside personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there will be, like I said earlier, if it's a fit that you need, that something like you want to boost your average because you have guys that are just going to home run hitters that are maybe you're going to strike out a lot.
Like a Joey Gallo.
Like a Joey. Well, yeah, Joey Gallo's crushing the ball to start this year. But something like, I understand what you're saying, someone that's high power, low average. And if you want to put a Madrigal in there to boost that average a little bit, I don't see any problem with it, but I wouldn't sell a bunch to get him. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't go out of my way to get him. If he's someone that you can get in your league that you need help with, I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, he's a glue guy. But let's get into the two starting pitchers we mentioned, Nate Pearson and Cristian Javier. I am so excited for both of these guys. Pearson, obviously, with more of the hype around him, everybody expected him to be up last year, but he had the unfortunate injury to start the year, and the Blue Jays worked him back in. He looked fantastic in his debut. And the kid looked really good against a good Nationals lineup. Sure, they didn't have Juan Soto or Anthony Rendon. Obviously, Rendon on the Angels now, but no Juan Soto. But he looked good. He was able to paint the corners with his 99-mile-per-hour fastball. He was able to change speeds. He had a good breaking ball. And you can actually go on my Twitter, @DadSox, and see the kind of live tweet thread I did about it. I was a little behind, but I mean, he got guys to ground into easy ground outs. It didn't cost him a lot of pitches. It's not like he was a Corbin Burns where he's out there throwing 90 pitches in 4 innings. So I think he's going to be great. The Blue Jays have no reason not to throw him out there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that he looked really good. And I mean, like you said, yeah, they didn't have Soto. But I mean, it's still, like you said, they're still a defending World Series champion.
Yeah.
I know that they don't have Rendon, which helped out a lot, but still, as of right now, they're the champions. No, someone has to defeat them. So that's how I look at it, is he pitched really well against a team that just won the World Series. And so what do you think about Cristian Javier, though?
I am hot for Javier. Like, this guy, he doesn't have the hype around him. A lot of people don't know who he is because of the fact that, he's a part of that Astros machine. And his biggest thing in the minors the last few years has been his control. Too many walks, but he got tossed to the Wolves, and he damn well showed it. I mean, against the Dodgers to go almost 7 innings with a bunch of strikeouts and only 1 walk, sign me up for all of that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think we're going to get to him. We're going to probably talk about him a little bit later too.
Yeah, we will.
So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, well, we'll see. I mean, we could be running into a situation where we might not have a season after tomorrow.
Yeah.
And there's reports coming out that Rob Manfred is warning everybody that the season could be shut down as early as Monday if these players don't start kicking in a shape. I mean, you Marlins were seen in hotel bars and going out into the town.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Cardinals. They're crazy. Their whole team is getting sick. And, I personally think that if they don't get it straightened up, we won't have a season. But we were talking a little bit earlier before the podcast, and you're kind of a little bit lower, thinking it's more of like a threat, that like a dad threat. But so what do you fully think is going to happen? Say this time next week, where are we going to be?
I'm hoping that we still have a season, and I'd say it's maybe a 10% chance that Manfred comes out tomorrow, say 10 a.m. and says, screw it, the season is banged, we're done, everybody go home. I don't think Manfred wants to do that. They want to be the league that can get it right. They don't want to be seen as losers. And like you said, Manfred came out, I think it was Friday, saying, hey, we'll bang the season if you guys can't get it under control, especially with the reports coming out of the Marlins, like you said, being in hotel bars, no masks, no nothing. And then one Cardinals player and 3 staffers get sick as well. Luckily, theirs hasn't been as big of an outbreak. But then he comes out today and has a completely different mindset of, I don't want to be a quitter. We want to continue the season. But the original threat just kind of felt like a dad in a car going, I'll turn this car around. And you kind of look at the dad and go, no, you're not. You've been planning this trip for 10 months. I call BS, and you're only 10 years old. But I don't see Manfred actually canceling the season. It felt really empty to me. I could be wrong, but with him now coming out in completely different tune, I think we still have a season. I think unless things get really bad where I think if we have another Marlins situation, sure, the season gets banged. But other than that, I mean, you have teams like the Cubs who have had 0 cases this whole season. They've had nothing. They've done it right somehow. And I think that's the only way you would have it, is if you had another huge outbreak and it's from something obvious of players just completely disregarding the rules.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be ready for that, because we were talking a little bit earlier before we started the podcast, saying, what would we do as a podcast if this was to be canceled tomorrow or anytime soon, before the season's over? And we just want to let everybody know, like, we're going to still be kicking out content. Like, we're not just going to go away and come back again a little bit earlier next year. So I hope you guys stay with us, because we're going to be talking more on maybe some dynasty leagues. And because I know John's a really big dynasty guy, so we'll be definitely able to be helping you out with that. You want to kind of go into a little bit more detail on what we might be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, even in the off season, if this was a regular year, we still want to put out content for you listeners. This is a passion project for both of us, and we're not going to let you down of just kind of disappear just because the season's over. If the season is cut short, there's a lot of things we can talk about. I know there's a bunch of different strategies, whether it's roto, whether it's head-to-head, dynasty, or redraft. Everybody plays in a different type of league. So we'll go more into the strategy of different leagues, especially Startup Dynasty. That's a great thing to get into, and we'll always be putting out content. But we could do that. We can do deep dives into players you guys want to hear about. We'll have mailbag segments as well, because obviously a lot of us and some of us still play in Dynasty or Keepers, and we all have tough decisions, whether it's to keep a guy even though he's 35, whether it's a trade offer you're getting. So I think that's more the content we'll put out, because if we don't have any season to discuss, it makes it harder. But we are here for the fans, and I know I enjoy it. So we'll go more that route.
Completely agree. And I don't want them just to go away because baseball is over, because we're going to be giving you guys a lot of good stuff, so that when season starts next year, you guys are already ahead of the curve and know what's kind of going on, because this is what we're going to be doing. Anything we hear, even if we have to have like an emergency episode where something huge happens, we're going to be on it. So you guys definitely want to keep listening in and tuning in and listen and see. And mailbag would be huge, because this would be a perfect time get us all your questions, because this is what we can do for you guys is answer these questions, because we might not have a season. But let's cross our fingers and see and hope that that's not going to be the case. But we just wanted to let you know that we will be covered if the season is canceled. Another big thing, actually, that I think it happened today was, did you see Albert Pujols hit his 15th Grand Slam of his career today?
Oh, I did. And that swing, even though he's been in the league for 20 years, it is still just as sweet as ever. It's when he knows what pitch it is, when he's able to see it ahead of time, he has such an easy time killing it. And I think he's 2 home runs short of Willie Mays now. I think he's at 658. And then he's got 2,080 RBIs, 6 short of A-Rod for second. So that's one reason I don't want to see the season banged is guys like Pujols, or guys that are just trying to put the little pretty ribbon on the end of their careers, when we know Pujols is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's not a question.
100%, yeah.
But I want to see what he can put up stat-wise. I mean, that's any of us that play sports games, you're going for the records, and I want to see Pujols get as high as he can.
Yeah, definitely. He is the Frank Gore of fantasy baseball. That is for sure.
That's a good comp.
Like, literally, like he'll never go away, and I'm never going to be mad about it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously I'm not going to take him on any of my teams, but when I turn on the game, or if I see that he's up to bat, like, I'm just rooting for him. He's just that guy that I'm never going to root against. It's just, I never wanted to see him go away. But yeah, it was awesome to see that today.
And then something I saw over the weekend as well that obviously most people have probably heard about. Lorenzo Kane opted out for the rest of the season. And then we had a situation with Yoenis Cespedes where Mets came out today and just kind of did the shrug emoji on the stand and going, we don't know where he is. Yeah. And about a few hours later, he comes out. He had already left, and the Mets even said, hey, when we went to check on him, all his personal belongings were gone. Everything was packed up. And they got word from his agent that he has opted out. I don't know how many more of these we'll see. I think we get a lot more, but what do you think, Mike?
I also think that we're going to probably get a couple more. Hopefully not bigger names, but especially guys that might have like bigger families, that have like a bunch of kids and stuff like that. Maybe they just, at this point, it's not worth it to them, and they just want to go home and spend time with their family, even though they spent however many months with their family, but we didn't have a season to start. So I don't ever blame them if this is what they want to do. I understand. But I do think that these two are probably going to open up a door to where we're going to see a couple more players, especially maybe even on the older side, are going to be coming out and saying, what, it's not worth it, especially on teams that maybe haven't started off well. Like if you're a team that just had a really bad week, and I mean, you're only 60 games. So if you start off with 15 bad games, at that point you might as well just, I don't ever want to hear that's the case, you're going to quit because you want to opt out. But I do see that this is definitely going to open up another door.
Right. And it's tough to see it happen, but at the same time, it's not even like I don't think they're wanting to blame MLB for it. It's just that thing of, we see other teams don't care. Like the Marlins situation we've discussed. It's the fact that they don't trust the other teams, because you can't, as much as you want to play the game, you're bringing in 30 other players at this point from another city that have just traveled through airlines. And obviously most of these cities are big cities, Miami, Chicago, New York. Guys still want to live their lives, but they can't be putting that risk on the rest of the league. When you play, it's a socially distanced game for the most part, but you still interact with them. You're still standing next to them at first base. You're still touching a ball that somebody else has touched. It's something that's still dangerous, as much as people don't want to have it happen. But I just hope we don't see a lot of them. I understand it if guys do. I will never be against it. I will never call them out. I am fully supportive of it.
Yeah,
but it's a tough look.
I completely agree. I am fully supportive of it too. I just wish that they could just maybe put their night life aside and just give us as fans a full season. But I mean, once again, I don't know their lives. I don't know what they're going through, maybe at home or something's going on at home. I never want to speculate that that's the thing, but just as a fantasy baseball fan, I don't want the season to be canceled all because guys won't take it serious,
They want to be unprofessional. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tough look.
Yeah.
So that's all the news we've really got. Most people should be caught up on it. But before we get to the rest of our show, let's take a quick break from a word from our sponsor. And we're back. So we are going to start the second half of our show with a new segment called Studs and Duds. Obviously, we all have our own fantasy players and teams that we look at. We know who was awesome for us. We know who we are absolutely despising right now because of the way that they performed this last week and a half. But we want to bring out guys that either could have been waiver wire pickups for you that were great, or guys that you got late in the draft that are just absolutely killing it. And obviously, let's get into that because there's always going to be someone that wins a week for you.
Yeah.
Let's get into my stud for the week, and it is Dansby Swanson. It's a guy that I've doubted for the longest time. He always struggled with fastballs, and it seems like he's been able to correct that because he put up 2 home runs, 11 RBIs, 3 stolen bases with a 368 average on a Braves offense that struggled, honestly, to open the year. So to put up that type of line early on, excellent for a guy that you got around the 250th pick during this draft season.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we always knew he was a great baseball player. I mean, it's like you said, now he is putting it all together, and it's awesome because that Braves lineup, has always been feared, and now you have a batter in that situation is hitting the ball crazy this start of this year for sure.
And the weirdest thing was that his struggle wasn't the off-speed or breaking ball. It was the fastball out of everything. He just couldn't catch up to it, but he's looking real good and a 5-category contributor too, which is great.
Oh, definitely.
Who's your stud for this week?
My stud is a player that performed on an offense that isn't great, but we didn't fully know too much about because, he just got called up last year. If I don't remember right.
Yep,
I do remember right. And just, we didn't know what was going to happen. And then this week he just exploded. He got a hit in every single game this season. That's Kyle Lewis for Seattle Mariners. It's insane. I mean, his line, he hit 3 homers, 9 RBIs, and batted .425. And there's people on like Baseball Tonight that are saying that this is the breakout, the craziest week you can have. They're already comparing him to the start of a season of like Ichiro. It's just it's insane. I mean, I don't have any Kyle Lewis. I wish obviously I did, especially for this week, because I probably would have won way more categories than I did. But he has to be the stud of this week.
Yeah, and I got to admit that I didn't know nobody knew he was going to have this type of way to open the season. But I have to give credit. I believe it was to Mike Kurland. I'm actually trying to re-find it here. But he was the guy that pointed it out to me that he had not a big swing change, but enough of one to make a big difference going into the season. He was a guy that everybody said around a 240, 250 batting average. But lots of power, always had that available, and the swing change has definitely made a difference. Like you said, almost a 500 batting average in a week. It's not easy to do, but honestly, in a short sample size like this, I'm a believer. Obviously, I don't believe he's hitting 400 for the season, but
no, he won't hit 400 the whole season. But, I mean, it's a good bright spot for that lineup that isn't great,
And especially a guy, it was Mike Kurland that I saw. So I got to call him out. I've got to thank him. The launch angle is down, but he's got a higher quality of contact, and he's cut his ground ball rate as well. So if he's getting the ball in the air with his type of power, he's going to be well worth it. And he's standing a little more upright now that I have it pulled up here. A little bit more upright compared to his more crouched version last year. And So I think it works for him. He's more upright and his hands are slightly closer to his body, so he's not having that giant hole on the inside of the zone. So I think we've seen a big change, and it's little things like that that you have to take advantage of. So, obviously
he's
we've got our
definitely
studs.
Yep. Who's your dud?
Oof.
Who pissed you off this week?
For me, this is more of a dynasty player. Obviously, everyone has a not different view, but different use of him, and that's going to be Shohei Ohtani. Most sites have him as 2 players. Fantrax that I use has him as 1, and I have him in a few leagues. And that first start where he didn't even get a single out and just looked absolutely terrible killed me. I thought about starting him today, but I didn't feel confident, even though he was facing where was it? Who did they play today?
The Angels played the Astros.
The Astros, yeah. I mean, especially that Astros lineup, they're not hitting the way they were before, but
oh no,
I couldn't do it. And his fastball command is so bad right now. His sinker looks like it's getting there. His slider, he was really comfortable with, but his fastball is all over the place. And I'll actually, I'll put it out tomorrow. You can see his heat map with it. It's just, he doesn't seem to have control of it. And he has that high heat where he can blow it by you and you never know what's coming. But if you don't have to worry about that fastball, it makes it a little bit easier to deal with. So him giving up 3 hits, 7 earned runs, and 8 walks with only 3 strikeouts is tough in less than 2 innings. The fact that it's only 3 hits, he is killing himself. It's not that he's getting hit around. He's just giving up all those free passes, and it's a tough look.
Yeah, would you go as far as saying there wasn't any trash cans in Orange County? Or
they certainly didn't need them, that's for sure. They certainly didn't need them.
Yeah, well, I mean, that top of the lineup is starting to look a little fishy without trash cans being banged because, I mean, I know Altuve and Springer, they haven't had a great start from what I've seen, but we'll go on to, I mean, definitely Ohtani being that start he had was definitely hard to watch. I mean, it was just you felt bad for him, but I do think he's gonna pick it back up and get back onto the way he was, before. And it's still that talent of hitter and pitcher being such a good, crazy combination of you have a pitcher that could kill it on the mound and then hit 20 homers. You know what I mean? Like maybe not this year, 20 homers, but
and this just breaking too. Sorry to interrupt you, but he's being sent for an MRI after today's start. It just came out now. Ohtani is. He expressed some discomfort in his start. They don't have the results back yet, but they will tomorrow, sometime Monday. So obviously today when you're listening to it, but hopefully it comes back negative. I mean, I would hate to see him hurt again. So hopefully we get some positive news on that front tomorrow morning.
Yeah. No, I cross my fingers because that would suck. I don't want.
Who's the guy that burned you?
Oh man, the guy that burned me was Andrew Benintendi. I mean, this guy literally batted .083 for his batting average. He got 2 hits out of 24 at bats. He struck out 10 times out of 24 at bats. Had 1 RBI. I mean, he wasn't somebody that I was thinking he was going to have a crazy start anyways because he does struggle with the start of the season. So I did understand that, but this is beyond struggling. Like I'm at the point where obviously you're not going to drop Benintendi, but in a 60-game season, you might get a little leery. Like if he has another week like this next week, I might have to, as much as, especially in a redraft league, I mean, definitely if he has 2 bad weeks in a 60-game season, you have to drop him. But in a dynasty, I mean, obviously you're not going to drop Benintendi if he had 2 bad weeks. But just this week, he really killed me. I needed him to definitely perform a little bit better. But we'll see. We'll give him 1 more week. We'll see how he did next week, and we'll talk about it on the show.
I've got to give him some credit. He's had 10 strikeouts, but he did have 9 walks. So it translates to 26% walk rate and 29% K rate. But, I mean, I know you're not in an OBP league, and at least guys in OBP leagues have that. But
Yeah.
2 runs, 1 RBI, and only 1 stolen base is a tough look for the Red Sox that need him to perform.
Yeah, because I mean, Jackie Bradley, I think he had a solid week this week.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, so that helps. But just as a whole, as a team, they're just not like looking too great. I mean, they are I don't know. They do have to play against the Yankees, so that does suck. But
that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, the Yankees rotation isn't studly at this time. So Paxton has been up and down. Obviously, you don't have Luis Severino, so maybe it's just what he needs. So we'll see.
It's that mustache, I think.
It might be.
Yeah, that mustache is terrible.
So obviously those are studs and duds. Why don't we get into our pickups? And I feel like this is a strong segment for us, one that we did really well last week. Our biggest pickups, at least we'll start with our hitters. We'll always do that. And honestly, one of my favorite hitters that you can pick up, I didn't expect to have this big of a fantasy impact, but I love the team he's on, and that's outfielder Trent Grisham. 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, and he's getting the second spot in the Padres lineup. Give me that all day. He's got the on-base skills for it. He's got the ability to run. He's one of the fastest players in the game, even though Milwaukee didn't showcase it last year. And his power's still playing pretty well in Petco Field. So you know what? I'll take it. It's especially at the top of the lineup behind Tatis and Hosmer and I'm blanking on it, but whoever else is on that lineup.
Machado.
Machado. There we go. That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah.
And he's going to get driven in. Great for runs. He's going to have some RBIs in there. So Trent Grisham, hot as hell, and is going to be very valuable. Grab him while you can. Who's your first pickup, Mike?
No, then I really like Trent Grisham. He's actually, I have stock in him on both of my teams. So I'm full happy with Trent Grisham's start. I mean, I was really loving it.
I hated the way he got played out of Milwaukee last year, though. Honestly, it sucked the way that he lost that game in the playoffs.
Yeah, with that ball that just got under him.
Yeah, and it happens, but in a high pressure spot, of course, people are going to eat him alive for it. It reminds me of back in the day for the Red Sox, their first baseman.
Yeah, I know you're talking about Bill Buckner.
Yes, Bill Buckner. There it is.
Yeah.
Buckner was him losing it. It's the same thing. Obviously, not as big of a situation or as big of a name, but I'm glad
you didn't hate it though if you were a Juan Soto fan.
Yeah, that is very true.
So definitely, yeah. So my first pickup is I don't know if you can get him. I know he is. I didn't get to see what his.
He's not highly owned. I'll say that for the most part.
Okay, all right. So that's perfect. So then, Colin Moran. Of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, crazy start. He has 5 homers already. I think he's leading the league in homers.
He'd be right up there with Judge because Judge is homered in 5 straight.
Okay, there you go. And so, I mean, he helps you with average. He's always been an average guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then if I looked at this up, this was crazy. 66.7% hard contact rate. That is out of this world. I know that's not going to stay put, but just as of just a start, why not grab somebody like that? Especially, he's pretty much the best hitter in the Pittsburgh lineup right now.
Yeah, he's the only one.
Exactly. Like usually it's Bell, but I mean, Colin Moran is going off, and if you can pick him up because he's not going to hurt your team. He's not going to really hurt your team in any category because, like I said, he gets on base, and just this power is just added for you. You know what I mean? And that's somebody that I always want on my team. I'm always a big average guy, and if you can throw in something like leading the league or tied in the league with homers, that's just an added bonus.
Yeah, in Fantrax, he's owned in 62% of leagues. Yahoo, he's at 45. So he's widely available for the most part. And even in Yahoo, they have him at second base and third base. So he's like a Mike Moustakas, but with a higher average.
That's my favorite. Position eligibility is my favorite.
So
who's your next pickup?
He actually fits the position eligibility, is also a second and third baseman, depending on where you play. But my second pickup is Hanser Alberto of the Baltimore Orioles. Very similar model to Colin Moran. Very high average guy, not a lot of power. He hasn't produced a ton of power just yet, but he's hitting well. And especially right now, he's got a 429 average, 2 home runs, 1 stolen base. And yeah, Baltimore's offense isn't the greatest, but he's at the top of the lineup, currently hitting second consistently. And he had a breakout year last year. And if you're looking for a middle or a corner infielder, or I mean, with everybody being either sick or postponed games, he's a guy that he's well worth it. The fact that he can bring you average, built in a similar model of Colin Moran, but I mean, you got to take a guy that's hitting at the top of the lineup. The more at bats you get, the better it is, especially with a guy that's high average. So give me Hanser Alberto right now with how he's
easily
been playing. So,
yep. I mean, I feel like you just looked at my roster because that's another guy that I have on both of my teams that I'm loving to start. So, I mean, that's just crazy. I like both of those guys a lot. My second guy is actually somebody that I don't think is going to keep it up.
No.
So, I mean, this is risky, but maybe another week or two. But Jacoby Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has had such a crazy start. This guy has been in the league for a long time. He's never been someone that people go out of their way to get in fantasy baseball. But with this week he was batting 423. OBS is 1.349. I mean, that is insane. I mean, he's on base this whole last week so much. And like I said, if it can keep up, it's someone that you're going to get as a complete steal. And he's a good source of power for right now, at least. I mean, he's hit 3 home runs this week. So I'm definitely a surprising team this week. A team, though, that like I said, I don't know if it's going to stay put and keep up with this. But somebody maybe to ride out this next week with, pick him up. And if he doesn't do well, then just get rid of him. But as somebody that I am really thinking about picking up is Jacoby Jones for sure. What do you think about him?
I like that of riding the hot hand. In a normal season, I probably wouldn't suggest it. But, I mean, in the short season, you need the wins right away. You can't – it's hard to speculate on a guy of, well, he's starting to break out and then hoping that it continues because he may get sick, he may get injured, but you may have postponed games because of teams not being able to face their opponent. And I like that because he does get to face the Cardinals over the next 4 days. Then he gets the Pirates on the weekend. Neither of them really having great pitching staffs. Obviously, Cardinals do have Jack Flaherty, but he's got an opportunity to play in some decent stadiums, okay pitching staffs, but he should be able to produce off of them. So I like Jacoby Jones as a pickup. Obviously, I don't expect him to continue with the power. He's never been that type of guy. But in a season like this, just pick up the guy and ride him, especially he's maybe going to cost you $1 in FOB. So, I mean, you're not having to spend a lot on him.
Yep.
But let's stick with that same team in the Detroit Tigers because my third pickup and final hitter this week is Johnathan Schoop, a guy that he's batting second for the Detroit Tigers. No competition behind him. They really don't. There's no reason to take him out of the lineup. And power is his game. Second base is a really weak position. And Schoop was a guy that I believed in when he was with the Baltimore Orioles. And then he had a couple of down years. But right now he's got 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, and a 300 average. Detroit Tigers aren't going to be a firepower team, but somebody that you can grab off the waiver wire at 13% owned on Yahoo and probably a little bit higher in Fantrax as I look it up. But you know what he brings you. He's going to be a 250, 260 average, power, and especially at a second base, you need it. I mean, right now he is 63% owned in I don't even know why Bixby keeps opening on my phone. But he's 63% owned in Fantrax. So once again, widely available. I mean, obviously big differences between the two platforms, but second base is a position most people struggle with. So Johnathan Schoop out for the Detroit Tigers hitting in the middle of the order. Let's go.
Yeah, no, and that's another guy that I actually did have to go get because I had Kevin Biggio and I needed a second baseman that could just fill in, and he did really well. He produced the rest this week since I picked him up. I think I picked him up on Thursday, and he's done really well. So definitely a solid pickup. My last hitter is we all know that I love position eligibility. And in this, I'm just gonna let me just name the eligibility he has. He can go second base, third base, shortstop, and outfield on Yahoo. And the only reason I know that for sure is because I have him on my team, and that's David Fletcher of the Angels. I mean, this guy literally, I've plugged him in my lineup this week at like every position I could so that I could play certain other people. I love it so much. He hit 394 this week. He's always on base. He had a 961 OPS. And like I said, the position eligibility for fantasy baseball is something that's so crucial and can help you win a league because it's someone that I can just plug in a player like, especially with this first week, we had so many people that weren't playing because of teams getting the games being suspended because of the COVID. And I was able to plug and play him in so many different places. I loved it so much. That's someone that I'm definitely going to keep. And I would recommend going to grab because there's no way he is not owned. He's probably owned in under 30% of leagues is just my guess. And I just would love for everybody to pick him up because I think he's the top of the lineup for the Angels. That's who I would definitely go out and get for sure. What do you think about him?
Let me see if I can pull up the Angels lineups. But he's a guy that I preached last year a little bit about, that he's great for the fact that he's very consistent. You know he's going to get the playing time. And he's at the top of the order for the most part because he has the speed. He has a good hit tool to go along with it. So over the last few days, he's been at the top of the lineup at all 8 days. So you know he's going to play. He's going to be consistent there. And especially batting ahead of obviously Trout if he's in the lineup, but Anthony Rendon, Justin Upton, Albert Pujols, he's going to get driven in. So David Fletcher's great, especially for, like you said, times where you're missing half. Like I know the 4 hitters I had on my bench in my dynasty team all postponed. Trout was out with obviously being on paternity leave. So having a guy like that where he can kind of fill in anywhere is great. And a guy that is a solid glue guy, I think is perfect for the end of a roster right now.
Yeah, I looked it up. He's actually he's above what I thought, but he's still only 48% owned in Yahoo. So I mean, you can still get him in half the leagues. I would definitely pick him up, and especially because we just don't know what's going to happen with postponements. And like I have Didi Gregorius, and I was able to play Fletcher at shortstop most of the week. You know, and then like I said, if before I got Johnathan Scope, I put him in at my second base for when Kevin Biggio wasn't able to play. So like he's just one of those guys that is not going to give you much power, but he's going to do the little things right, and he has so many different places he can play. It's just someone good to have in your lineup for sure.
Yeah, and it's like we said, he's a glue guy. He's going to produce average, which is sometimes hard to find, but he's not going to really kill you anywhere either. He's not a Nick Madrigal in our thoughts, at least. So he's got a little bit of speed. He's got a little bit of power. So I love the fact that David Fletcher can be used anywhere. So
yeah, and then go ahead.
I'll let you.
I was just going to say we do have we talked about hitters. Let's talk about a couple of pitchers that we might want to get. Who would you go pick up right now for pitching wise?
One of my top ones is honestly a guy I didn't ever expect to find his stuff, and that's Tyler Chatwood. He's always been nasty, even when he was with Colorado. He has some really nasty breaking pitches, and his biggest thing was being able to get the control down. He was wild with the Cubs last year, whether they used him as a starter, as a reliever. But opening up this year, he's looked really solid. He's looked composed. And 19 strikeouts to 4 walks. Hell yes. Give me all of that for a fantasy team where we've had either – it feels like every start out of a pitcher right now is either awesome or complete crap, where you're giving up 8 runs in 2 innings or you're just shutting guys out for 7 innings plus. And Tyler Chatwood on a good Cubs team with a good defense, offense really hasn't been there. But unless you're in a wins league, then it doesn't matter. And if he can keep this up, he can be a very valuable starter that you can pick up off the waiver wire. So give me Tyler Chatwood for the Cubs.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and especially because I'm pretty sure. I mean, I didn't look it up. He's probably really cheap too. Like I don't think anybody's really, especially like in Yahoo. I don't think he has probably so much people grabbing him up, but definitely a good solid start. You've pretty much proved your point on why you would get him, and that's somebody that I would definitely be looking at too this week.
Well, and you might be able to get him cheap because people were burned by him last year. Yeah. He was so hyped up he's finally leaving Coors. Yeah, well, he's finally leaving Coors. He's going to the Cubs organization. It's a little bit of a hitter's ballpark, but they should be able to get him to work. And the fact that he looks so bad, and in a short season, you might get a lot of people where they go, I don't trust it. I'm not going to do it. So you maybe you'll get him for 1 or 2 fob or in the middle of a waiver wire order if that's how you play. So,
yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, my guy this week is going to be Zack Plesac. So I know he had a good start against your White Sox.
Yeah. He looked nasty, though. He looked really good.
Yeah, 11 strikeouts, no walks. And if everything works out again, I think he's going to go against you guys again.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, at that point, you might as well ride. You've already seen it once. I mean, I know some type of baseball math would say, okay, now they know what he threw. So they're going to be ready for it. But I'm going to ride the hot hand here. I'm going to say that that's someone that I would definitely be wanting to play this week. Because like I said, we know he can do it. He's done it before. So, and he's a good, nice, young prospect. So that's who I'm going to go with. I'm going to see if he can do it again and see if he can beat you guys one more time.
I love that pickup as much as it pains me to say it. But he's a part of that Cleveland machine that just produces pitchers out of really nowhere.
Yeah,
he was usually less than 9 Ks per 9, which translate for him. I mean, mostly going off of K percentage. He was usually a 24% guy, so not high upside. But I mean, he's only 25 years old, and we've seen what Cleveland can do to guys like Corey Kluber, Trevor Bauer, where these guys just become strikeout machines. And I'm not going to doubt Plesac the way he looked the other night. No walks, 11 strikeouts, and he's got good pitches. It's not like he's throwing junk up there.
No. Yep, that's who I would definitely be. Who's a relief pitcher that you have?
Well, and this was one that as soon as I was watching the games, I pointed out to everyone that follows me of Nick Birdie. With how weird closers are this year, obviously we've had Aroldis Chapman missing games. We've had Brad Hand for Cleveland look like garbage. Saves are obviously something everybody's always chasing. So Nick Birdie is looking excellent for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He may not get a ton of chances because that Pirates offense is terrible. I mean, it kind of helps in one way of they're always going to be in close games, but do they score enough to be winning? I mean, you're kind of a catch-22 there, but a guy that he looks like he's stolen that closer role right now is Nick Birdie, sitting at 98.5 miles per hour with an 88 mile per hour slider, and it's really, really gross in a good way. And his competition behind him, I mean, Kyle Crick looked bad in summer camp, and Keone Kela, we don't know if he's coming back, when he's coming back this year. I don't think that the Pirates would go to him with how Nick Birdie has looked. So it's as much as everybody needs closers, go grab Nick Birdie right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I wish everybody that's listening could see my notes, because I literally put agree with John on Nick Birdie. Word for word what it says here. I can't agree more. That's someone that I'm in a league where you have 8 drops in ads and then you're at a limit.
Oh, so those are tough.
Yeah, so I hit my limit, but at 12 o'clock tonight, if I'm still up, we'll see. I am going to use my first one to go pick up Nick Birdie, and that's definitely someone that I'm going to go grab 100% because I need the closing help. I mean, my closes are you ready for this? I hope you're sitting down. Matt McGill.
Oh my God.
Let's see who else. Matt McGill. Oh, Edwin Diaz.
Oh.
And so, I mean, I only have 2 right now, and I'm definitely gonna go get Birdie because I need it that bad. And I don't think the Pirates are gonna get many save opportunities, but I mean it's someone that I definitely need. And if he does get the opportunities, like you said, I agree 100% with it's his job.
Well, and he struck out the side against St. Louis on the 26th. He looked really good. I was watching a game when he was in there, and he looks almost untouchable. And I know everybody's struggling, especially I have Edwin Diaz as well. I don't know what's happened to him ever since the 2016 season. He just has not been the same. It feels like 2016, 2017 was his peak. Hopefully he can find it, but it's a rough look.
Well, I think he actually came in today and he got an inning of work. Let me look it up really quick.
Yeah, they had him in a non-save situation, trying to get him
strikeout in one inning. So I mean, I think what they're doing is they're going to be putting him in a couple of these situations to maybe get his head right. And because we've seen in the past, I mean, we've also seen in the past that he's been terrible.
Yeah.
In the past where he was one of the best closers in the game. So I'm kind of hoping that he gets it back together especially because he's he's obviously the number 1 closer in my lineup instead of Matt McGill. That guy was supposed to be the closer, and then they bringing him out in the 7th inning, and I'm like, come on, like what is going on? So, and that is partially my fault for going and grabbing a closer in the Seattle situation. So that's partially my fault. But I thought I was going to get a free closer on a Major League Baseball team, but that's what I get for guessing on that. So I'm definitely, like you said, we're going to go get Birdie and we're going to play him. Do you have any people that you might say, you know what, it's a quick season, only 60 games, that you might just be, I'm done with? Maybe if it was a longer season, I would hold on to. Who do you think?
Yeah, I've got 3, and we'll just kind of gloss over these a little bit. We can always take questions on Twitter as well, but for me, the 3 names that I'm looking at dropping right now are catcher Will Smith, first baseman and outfielder Danny Santana, and starting pitcher Robbie Ray. Ray obviously has not been great. Almost 9 innings of work. He's allowed 8 earned runs, 9 walks, and 11 Ks. A lot of people were high on him. He was drafted within the top 50 because of his strikeout upside, but he just doesn't look like he has it. Danny Santana is in the bottom of the order or not hitting at all. He's already losing playing time because of Nick Solak and some of the other guys that the Rangers are able to trot out there. And he was a guy that I knew going into the season that if he didn't start out hot, he was going to lose playing time pretty quick. So that Texas Rangers offense doesn't really need him. And then obviously Will Smith losing time behind the plate to Austin Barnes and not hitting at all. You can just play the hot hand at catcher. Honestly, it's hard to sit on Will Smith when he's hitting less than 100, or he's just over 100 now because of today's game, but I'd play the hot hand at the catching position because you can find guys that can fill in, honestly. What about you?
Yeah, we'll go over some of the guys that I'm going to drop. I mean, what you're going to get out of him, but just this start has been really bad. I have Chris Davis with a K from Oakland, Willie Calhoun, and might not be too people aren't going to be too favorable of this. If I had him, I personally drop in Vlad Guerrero Jr. So we'll start with Chris Davis. I mean, the man has 1 hit. He is the designated hitter, and when you're a designated hitter, you would think you'd be getting hits, but that's not happening. And he kills you on batting average. I mean, that going into the season when you draft him, but if he's not even getting on base and not hitting homers, I mean, what's he good for? I mean, nothing else. And then
he was always a high power guy last year, and that shoulder injury that he suffered, and he came back and all of a sudden he was able to hit for average but no power. I feel like that might still be affecting him, especially since he's 32. Not everybody's body kind of hits the same way, so I wonder if that's one of the reasons.
Yeah. And then my other guy is Willie Calhoun. I mean, another guy that only has 1 hit to start the season. He has no walks. And like you said about Danny Santana, I don't think that they're gonna keep putting up with it. I mean, I don't think they're gonna be a winning baseball team this year. So maybe they will, but I mean, I know he had the broken jaw to start or in spring training this spring training before the summer camp. So I don't know if maybe that I don't think that's still affecting him, but something is because only one hit and no walks start the season. I'm not liking it. If I have him, I'm getting rid of him. And then Vladdy, I just think it's just a slow start in a short season, kind of for me at least. I mean, he's hitting way too many ground balls. I don't know. I'm not liking it, and I know you wouldn't usually get rid of him if this was a full season because obviously especially dynasty, you're not going to get rid of Vlad Guerrero in that. But in a redraft just for this season, I think I am gonna drop him. I do have him, and it just depends on who's out there in the free agency. But it's a risky drop because he could turn it on at any time. But just for me personally, I'm gonna get rid of him and go on to the next person. What about you? What do you think?
Calhoun is one I could see. I think he's getting more time than Danny Santana. He even hit third in the order today as a DH. So Calhoun is one that's tough because we know he's got the bat to ball skills that you need.
Yeah.
So that one it would take a little bit more for me. And one I'm definitely not is Vlad Guerrero. I'm going to disagree with you there. And
I know. I see you on Twitter all the time talking about him. That's for sure.
Well, because right now he's hit the ball 90% of the time. He's hitting it hard, 95 plus miles per hour. His exit velocity is in the 94th percentile. The dude is crushing it, but you are right. He's just hitting so many ground balls. He's pounding the ball into the ground. But even from the time that I did the little thread on him earlier this week, I will say he went from 2.2 to 5.8 launch angle. So he's getting there.
Yeah.
I mean, he hits the ball. He hits the crap out of the ball every time. He's not walking as much as he usually does, and he's striking out more. But if that's one that I personally would advise against, just because, like you said, if he finds the right swing and starts getting it, he's going to be a monster. We all know this.
Yeah, well, let's say this. Let's say maybe not drop him today, but next week we will revisit.
Yeah,
we'll revisit Vladdy, and will you say if he has another bad week next week, would you drop him?
I'll follow that up then because I'm so torn. I'm such a Vladito homer that I just. Yeah. He's got to work on his body. That's the biggest thing. The quarantine. All of us have put a quarantine 15 on. He looks like a quarantine 30, which I hate to see because he was already a bad body guy. But I want to see him get some lift on the ball because last year you had a 115 mile per hour single from him just because the straight line drive. It's so hard to see him struggle. So yeah, we'll follow that one up. I actually like doing that for all of these.
And I don't see why not. I mean, we kind of skipped over it. Let's last week. I mean, you went 3 for 3 on your starting sits. I had 1 for 3. I mean, I told everybody to go pick up Vince Velasquez. I hope you weren't listening to me. I was just hoping that he would eventually put it together, but of course he didn't. Nate Eovaldi did have a good start, so that one I had okay with. Who were some of the guys that you said again?
I had start Garrett Richards. I had sit Mike Fultonevich, and there's something just wrong with him. I don't know what it is, but even seeing pictures from 2018 playoffs to last season to this season, he's lost a lot of weight. So I don't know if he's sick. I can't really speculate on any of that, but he's lost a lot of weight and I don't know why.
That could be like the greatest call already of the year. I mean, you said to sit him and then they literally cut him after his start. So
I'll admit I did not see that coming. I was not calling for that, but yeah, it was start Garrett Richards, sit Fultonevich, and start it was somebody earlier in the week.
Well, here, you can look that up. And then, like I said, I did do 1-on-3 in pitchers, but we all know The episode title last week was Pick Up Yastrzemski. So I did follow through there. So hopefully everybody did. I think this is going to keep going. The Giants lineup literally proved me wrong, but as we all know, I'm a Giants fan, so I love it. We have Donovan Solano leading the league in RBIs. Like, whoever thought that? I didn't even think he was going to be a starter, let alone do what he's doing. So they're proving me wrong. I mean, Longoria came back and is hitting the cover off the ball. Alex Dickerson's performing pretty well. So I'm not going to sit here. I mean, we do have a catching prospect. I don't know if you even call him a prospect, Chadwick Trump. The tagline is Trump 2020.
Yeah, it's Tromp. Because even listening to the game, I'm like, did they say Trump? I'm like, no, it's Trump with an O, which is weird.
And he had a huge 3-run homer today, so hopefully he keeps getting at bats with Heineman. So, yeah, I mean, they proved me wrong, and I'm never going to be mad that they proved me wrong, but I was wrong. Did you find out who your other start was?
It was Brady Singer. I looked it up, and it was Brady Singer, and that was the other call that I had. So
yeah. But I mean, so what? So now we know you did really well last week. Who are some of your start and sits this week?
I don't know if I can go 3 for 3 again, but let's see if I can. So my first one is later in the week. He just pitched today, and that's going to be John Lester of the Cubs. At this point, he draws the St. Louis Cardinals, and I'm hoping that obviously the Cardinals have their situation under control and that he'll be able to pitch. I mean, he's a guy that I think this delayed season really helped him kind of refresh his body, because he was a guy that looked bad the last few years. He's limited the walks because that was the toughest thing. Plus, he gets to play in St. Louis, so it's a pitcher's ballpark, which works in his favor. And the Cardinals don't seem to have any firepower at this point. They currently have a 660 OPS as a team. There's nothing really there that scares me. So give me John Lester on Friday in St. Louis against the Cardinals, as long as the game is actually going on, because their game with the Tigers tomorrow is postponed. So let's see if they get to actually play.
Yeah, there's a lot of like that, like we don't know if teams are going to play for sure next week. But my start is Griffin Canning. I don't know if you were able to see his start yesterday against the Astros.
No, I missed it.
He looked really good. I mean, let's see here. He had five strikeouts against Houston yesterday. Don't think he got the win. I'm not completely sure on that. I think the game got out of hand in the extra a little bit later after he's out. But he looked good. His stuff's always been good. He's been big. He's been a pretty big prospect, and he's going against the Mariners on if everything adds up with probable pitchers. He should be pitching Thursday against the Mariners, and I just like that matchup a lot, especially with him looking good against Houston. Mm-hmm. I think he could look even better against the Mariners for sure.
And that's the hardest part. I know a few other fantasy writers have been having issues of trying to do streaming, because a lot of these teams honestly aren't putting out their probable pitchers. They're kind of going, okay, obviously we're recording on a Sunday. They're putting out their Monday and maybe Tuesday starters, but a lot of them really aren't. It's just kind of the next day. They're playing it day by day, hour by hour, it feels like. So, I mean, take it for what it is from us, but we're just trying to do the math on it.
Yeah, no, and another thing would work out is, especially with probable pitchers, we are both pretty big in Twitter. You know, if we're tweeting out saying for sure we have Griffin Canning playing Thursday, and we talked about it in the podcast that we should start him. You guys should follow us. I mean, what's your Twitter handle again?
It's @DadSox.
Yep, and I'm at BearsFan5233. So definitely follow us. Give us a follow if you listen to the podcast, and we'll be talking about it, because we might not know on a Sunday, but there could be something that happens on a Wednesday that we could just tweet out. And if you're following us, you'll be able to see what we're talking about.
So I've got one more start this week, because obviously we were having trouble with trying to figure out who's going to pitch and when. And obviously teams are trying to stretch some guys out still early on in the season, but we talked about him, and it is Cristian Javier. He's my second guy taking on Arizona. And This Diamondbacks team is so bad. I know they weren't last year they actually put together a good season. Not fantastic, but this D-backs team just looks so bad. And you've got Ketel Marte, Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar. But outside of those guys, you really don't have anything fantastic. Currently, they're even worse than the Cardinals. And the fact that Cristian Javier was able to flash his stuff against a great Dodgers team. I mean, the Diamondbacks have the tape for it now, but he's always had electric stuff. He has the strikeout ability, and if he's figured out how to not walk them, that's perfect. Especially the Diamondbacks right now, I'm pulling up their team OPS, currently are the worst in the league with a 533 OPS. Their on base is 268 and their slugging is 265. This team is garbage. They have 1 triple, 2 home runs. There is just nothing here. So you know, I think what?
Both home runs are from Marte. To tell.
Yeah,
I could be wrong on that though, but definitely check me on that. But
I mean, it's you've got all the upside in the world there. He may strike out 12 guys. I wouldn't be surprised at this point if he did. They look so bad.
Yeah, I don't have another start as of right now, but like I said, I will throw one on Twitter this week when I see the probable matchups and definitely give the viewers another one. But I do have my sit, and it's Adrian Houser. I know he has good stuff, and I know he's a good pitcher. It's just the matchups against the White Sox and the Reds. If those both do, if that is how it works out, I'm definitely not playing. I mean, we have the White Sox as you know, because you're their fan. They have the best average in baseball as a team, so obviously they can hit the crap out of the ball. And the Reds, we all know their lineup is pretty stacked. They might not have had a great week this week, but you have a great lineup. And I don't want to put my pitcher. I don't want to go get somebody that is going to go against both those lineups this week.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that. Especially, I believe they are. I'm trying to actually pull up the schedule right now, but I believe they might both be in Milwaukee. Or no, let's see.
I think the White Sox are in Milwaukee, but
I know that one is, but it's Hauser's looked good, but at the same time, like you said, both these lineups are really scary. The fact that, especially now with the White Sox having Nick Madrigal, he's going to be a pain in the ass of any pitcher out there just because he's going to put the ball in play. Yeah. And the Reds, Nick Castellanos has looked awesome so far. Mike Moustakas, as long as he's still healthy, will be really good. And it's a tough go. So, they are – the first 2 games for the White Sox are at the Brewers. Then they play in Chicago.
Yeah, so it just depends on whatever matchup he gets. Mm-hmm. But I do know they are playing Cincinnati in Milwaukee. So, I mean, that's just another reason why I wouldn't want to.
I mean, even in Cincinnati, it's not a great area for
not
him.
Any better, yeah. So that's who I would sit this week, especially if you went out and got him because he had a good start this last week. So that's somebody that I would sit. I wouldn't drop him at all, but I just wouldn't maybe, especially if you're in a lineup where you plug and play throughout the week. He's going to have 2 starts this week, and I think both of them aren't going to be great, so I wouldn't put him in my lineup.
Yeah, and especially early in the week, too, you don't want to get yourself killed on a questionable start. If it's Saturday or Sunday and you're already trailing an ERA or whip or something and you need the Ks, all right, go for it. But, I don't see running the risk early in the week and killing your week that fast. So
yeah, I agree 100%.
My sit for the week, though, is the other half of that Tuesday matchup between the Houston Astros and the Arizona Diamondbacks, and that is Madison Baumgartner. Even though the trash cans obviously aren't in favor of the Astros this year, they obviously haven't been using them. They still have been really good. The average isn't up there, but they're on base. Their slugging is starting to get there. And that's all without Altuve or Springer being all that dangerous compared to previous years. And, I mean, Bumgarner's looked pretty hittable. The fact that he's only got 9 strikeouts in 11 innings and 4 walks to go along with it, 8 hits. It's not a strong start for him. I know it's obviously it's in Houston. Or no, sorry. It's in Arizona, so it kind of plays to his strengths a little bit better. but Houston's starting to click. They're starting to get everything rolling. And even though they don't have the bangs anymore, it's that lineup is scary. So Baumgartner, he's not what he used to be. I'm not taking that risk at all, even though he may be highly owned or streamable. I just can't condone putting him out there.
Yeah, I agree. Quick question before we end the show. Are you recording the Yankees game?
No. Why would I?
I don't know if maybe you did. So I am looking at it on the side here, and Colin Moran is no longer tied with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge just hit another homer in the bottom of the eighth. He now has 6 homers this year.
Jeez. He has been on a tear.
Like, at this point, why even pitch to him? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's not like he's what I think he's batting like 280 or
290 right now, yeah.
290, but he literally is just every time he hits the ball, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to give that little update because we talked about Colin Moran being tied. He no longer is tied, so cut that out. No, I'm just kidding. Still go pick him up, but I did want to let you guys know that that's what just happened as we're recording this episode.
I mean, this is what the Yankees basically prepped for. They wanted Stanton and Judge and all these guys healthy because they are just absolute terrors. But Judge is just hot in the season, and he actually got traded to one of the worst teams in our home league team. That he's a huge Yankees fan, so he's tried to collect all of the Yankees that he can. But this one's obviously worked out in his favor this first week.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Oh God, that is something special right there.
Well, let's cross our fingers and hope our starts and sits work out for us in our favor this time. And like I said, we're going to follow up with some of our starts and sits like we're always going to do that. And we're going to follow up on Vladdy because I kind of want to do this year to see how long it's going to take John to budge on getting rid of him if he keeps playing bad.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see what happens. He's got all the talents in the world, and we'll always follow up with these. Some shows don't, whether it's obviously just sports talk, whether it's fantasy baseball, things like that. I always like following up on what we said because why not hold ourselves accountable? We're trying to do that for the point. So
yeah, no, definitely 100%. I agree.
I'm just hoping at this point next week we have some more baseball to talk about. I don't want to see the season banged. So if you've got anything else, Mike, I know I'm done. I've enjoyed this one.
I'm good. Yeah, let's go on for week 2, and what we'll do even is if something happens and they do cancel us tomorrow or this week, like I said, follow us on Twitter and we'll talk about when we might be posting the weekly shows on some dynasty help. So we'll definitely keep you guys in going on and letting you know what would be happening if something does happen. But we're going to cross our fingers and hope that doesn't happen.
Yep, I'm excited for it. So I hope you guys all go out there, get a lot of wins this week. Hopefully you can find some of those secret diamonds that we gave for you. So at this point, I just want to say I'm out.
I'm out. Have a good one, everyone.